Welcome back to the Strength for Generations podcast. I am your host, Krista Baker. If you're just joining us, this episode is episode 2 of our 9-part series called the Beatitudes of Health. Last episode, we talked about the humility shift that stops you from trying to figure out your health alone. And today, we're going to dive into something most people never really connect to their weight loss struggles: unprocessed regret, and how it's literally blocking your results. This series builds on itself, so if you haven't subscribed yet, hit the button now so you don't miss any part of this journey toward connecting your faith and your health in a way that transforms your family's future. Now, today we're talking about the second Beatitude. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. And we're going to show you how unprocessed regret about your past health failures is keeping you stuck in cycles of starting and stopping. So if you've been wondering why you can't seem to maintain a healthy diet even when you know what to eat, or why your energy feels blocked no matter how much you try to improve your nutrition, this episode is going to open your eyes. I'm going to walk you through the emotional reset that clears the path for real, lasting change. Because here's what most people don't realize. Your body holds on to more than just excess weight. It holds onto unresolved emotions, unprocessed regret, and the shame from every time you've tried and stopped. And until you deal with what's happening in your heart, you'll keep hitting the same walls in your health. So grab your notebook, maybe a tissue, and let's dive into some truth that might be hard to hear, but will set you free. Welcome to Strength for Generations, the go-to podcast for Christian families who want to build strength, restore energy, and deepen connection with God at the center. I'm Krista Baker, Christian health coach, wife, mom, and co-founder of Baker Family Fitness. I'm here to help you honor God with your health and bring peace back to the process, to simplify what it means to build strength in your body, renew your mind, and care for your spirit, all without losing precious time with your family. So grab your coffee and your ribeye, and let's do this His way. I want to share with you guys about a conversation that I had with a woman from my church. And this actually illustrates what I see happening all the time. She came to me after a Sunday service, and she looked exhausted. Not just physically tired, but emotionally drained. And she said to me, Krista, I need to ask you something, and I'm embarrassed to even say it out loud. She told me she'd been trying to lose weight for 5 years. 5 years. She's tried Weight Watchers. She tried keto, intermittent fasting. There was like this meal replacement shake. I think it was called Shaklee. And every workout program she could find online. She had an app, and then she tried a couple of those Group X style class, but it was at a private gym. And she shared with me that, every time I start really strong and I get really dialed in and I follow the plan perfectly, but then something always happens. Life gets stressful, or I have a bad day, or I go to a family gathering and I completely fall apart. And it's not that I just have a bad day or skip a workout. I completely abandon and go back to my old habits for weeks or months. And then she shared with me something a little bit deeper. She said, I feel like such a failure. Every time I quit, I tell myself I'm weak. I have no self-control. I'm never going to change. And now when I think about starting again, all I can think about are all the times I've failed before. It's like this voice in my head that says, why even try? You're just going to quit again. What was happening with this woman is she's carrying the weight of every failed attempt. Every time she started and stopped was piling inside of her like emotional baggage. And that unprocessed regret was creating a barrier between her and any real progress. She was trying to lose weight while carrying the shame and disappointment from years of previous attempts. No wonder she's stuck. And here's what I shared with her. We talked about this process that we need to work through when it comes to regret and grief. She finally allowed to mourn the time that she felt like she'd lost, the energy she wasted, the disappointment she carried. So when she stopped running from those feelings and actually dealt with them, she finally started to lose weight. And actually, I remember her saying, I can't believe it's actually this easy. She found peace with food because we talked about what it was like to just normalize food. Her energy came back that would actually last her all day. And then she built this confidence in her body that she hadn't had in decades. And not because we worked on this perfect diet, but because she cleared the emotional blocks that were sabotaging her from the inside. So I'm going to teach you guys about the emotional reset that changed everything for her and give you some good action steps so that you can process your own regret and move forward. And this comes directly from the second Beatitude. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Now, mourning in this context doesn't just mean crying at funerals. It means allowing yourself to feel grief over loss, to acknowledge what's been taken from you or what you've missed, what hasn't gone the way that you hoped. And when it comes to health, most of us are carrying unprocessed grief around our past attempts, our current struggles, and the gap between where we are and where we want to be. So our first step is we're going to acknowledge what you're actually mourning. And it's interesting. I'm going to talk about this from a health concept, but even from a business perspective, like sometimes I need to mourn the fact that the thing that I thought was going to go the way that I thought it was going to go, and all the work and effort I put into it didn't translate the way I wanted it to. I still have to mourn the fact that I did all of that and it didn't work the way that I thought it would. So here's what I want you to do. And it's going to feel probably a little bit difficult. We're going to get on a piece of paper and write down everything you're grieving about your health journey, not just the surface stuff. I don't want to hear, I just want to lose 10 pounds. I want deeper, like those deeper losses. Maybe you're mourning the energy you used to have in your 20s. Or maybe you're grieving the confidence you lost when your body changed after having kids. Maybe you're mourning all the time you've spent starting and stopping diets instead of actually living your life. Maybe you're grieving the fact that food has become an enemy instead of fuel. And maybe you're mourning the clothes in your closet that doesn't fit anymore. Or you're grieving the activities you've stopped doing because you don't feel strong enough or confident enough. Maybe you're mourning the example you want to set for your kids but feel like you're failing to provide. Just write it all down. Just get it all out of you. Don't judge it. Don't get upset with yourself. Don't minimize it too. I feel like a lot of people just really minimize these things, but I want you to actually acknowledge what you're carrying right now. Because here's what I know about unprocessed grief. It doesn't just go away. It sits in your body, creating stress, blocking energy, and sabotaging your efforts to move forward. The woman I shared with you, I'm so grateful I got to work with her, but she had been carrying grief about losing her pre-baby body for over a decade. And I remember even asking her, like, did we even like ourselves before we had that baby? She kept trying to get it back, getting frustrated when it didn't happen and beating herself up for not being able to achieve something that wasn't even realistic anymore. Once she acknowledged what she was actually grieving and allowed herself to feel sad about it, she could finally let it go. Okay, our next step is we're going to feel the feelings without fixing. This is where people get stuck. They identify what they're grieving and then immediately try to fix it or push past it. But grief doesn't work that way. You can't think your way through grief. You have to feel your way through it. Set aside some time, maybe when you're alone in the car or taking a walk, and actually let yourself feel sad about what you've lost. Cry if you need to. Get angry if that's what comes up. Even feel disappointed about the time you feel like you wasted. Feel frustrated about how hard this has been. Maybe feel scared about whether you'll figure it out. Don't try to talk yourself out of these feelings. Don't try to be positive or grateful or look on the bright side. Just feel what you feel. Because on the other side of that feeling is freedom. On the other side of acknowledging the loss is the ability to actually move forward. So when I worked with this one woman and she first started processing her grief, she was worried that if she let herself feel sad, she'd never stop crying. But the opposite happened. Once she allowed herself to fully feel the disappointment and loss, it actually moved through her. And on the other side was peace. Okay, our third step is we're going to separate past attempts from future possibilities. So here's something I see all the time. People let their past attempts define their future potential. They think, I've failed before, so I'll probably fail again. And that's not how growth works. Every attempt you've made has taught you something. Every time you've started and stopped, you've learned what doesn't work for your life. Every failure has been data, not evidence that you're incapable of success. Write down what you've learned from each past attempt. What worked for a while, and why did it stop working? Was it too restrictive or unsustainable? What external circumstance derailed you? What internal patterns kept showing up? Now, here's the key part. Thank those past attempts for the information they provided, and then consciously choose to separate them from your future possibilities. Your past does not determine your future. Your previous results do not limit your potential. You are not the same person you were when you made those attempts. You have more wisdom now, more self-awareness, more understanding of what your body actually needs. Okay, our fourth step is we're going to reframe your relationship with setbacks. One of the biggest sources of unprocessed regret is the belief that setbacks equal failure. But that's not true. Setbacks are part of the process. They're information, not condemnation. They're course corrections, not dead ends. When that woman that I got to work with would have a difficult day with food, instead of spiraling into shame and abandoning everything, she learned to ask different questions. Instead of, why did I mess up again? She started asking what was going on that made this choice feel necessary. Instead of, I have no self-control, she started asking, what do I need that I'm not getting? Instead of, I'll never change, she started asking, what can I learn from this to help me make different choices next time? The shift in perspective changes everything, because when setbacks become information instead of evidence of failure, you can actually use them to get stronger. She discovered that most of her difficult food days happened when she was overwhelmed and hadn't eaten enough protein earlier in the day. So instead of beating herself up, she started planning better and making sure she had protein-rich snacks available when stress hits. Problem solved. That's all we had to do. But the fact that she started recognizing these things inside of her, it just equaled so much freedom for her. Okay, fifth action step, we're going to create a grief ritual and release ceremony. And now this might sound a little unconventional, but hear me out. Sometimes we need to physically and symbolically release what we've been carrying. So we're going to create a simple ritual to mark the end of your grieving process and the beginning of your fresh start. I want you to write a letter to your past self, acknowledging the struggles you faced and the strength it's taken to keep trying. Write down all the regret, shame, and disappointment you've been carrying on pieces of paper. And then we're either going to burn them, obviously in a safe way, or we'll bury them or tear them up and throw them away. I was at a women's conference, and that was a task that they had us do. It was really well done, but we wrote down the things that came to us, and we got to throw them into this bucket. We're throwing it away. But then we're going to pray over this process. Ask God to help you release what's been weighing you down and to give you a fresh perspective on your health journey. And thank Him for the lessons you've learned and ask for wisdom moving forward. It's not just symbolic, guys. This is actually creating a clear boundary between your past and your future. You're choosing to leave the old grief behind and step into new possibilities. So let me recap the 5 action steps for you. First, acknowledge that you're actually mourning about your health journey and write it all down. Second, feel the feelings without fixing them. Third, separate your past attempts from your future possibilities and make sure you recognize what you've learned. Fourth, reframe your relationship with setbacks as information rather than failure. And fifth, create a grief ritual to physically and symbolically release what you've been carrying. When you work through this process, something incredible happens. You stop carrying the emotional weight of past failures. You stop sabotaging new attempts with old disappointments. You free up mental and emotional energy that can actually go toward building healthy habits. Your healthy diet becomes about nourishing your body, not proving you're not a failure. Strength training becomes more about building capacity, not punishing yourself for past mistakes. Like, think about that saying, oh, you've got to earn that cookie. You've got to burn off that pizza. Your nutrition choices become about fueling your family's future, not just fixing your past. And most importantly, you start approaching health from a place of hope instead of fear. Okay, my friends, if you're ready to clear the emotional blocks that have been sabotaging your health and start building from a place of freedom instead of fear, I want to invite you to take the next step. The Move Mountains method isn't just about nutrition and exercise. It's about dealing with the whole person, your heart, your mind, your spirit, and your body. Because lasting change happens when all of these work together instead of fighting against each other. And remember, it's free. Here's what we cover. Day 1 helps you to connect with your deeper why. Day 2, we start talking about different ways to get you moving. Day 3, we talk about nutrition and how to simplify what is so confusing. Day 4, we work on our perseverance and teach you how to keep going when motivation fails. And day 5, the most important piece is building a legacy of health that impacts the next generation. So we've got a workbook for each day, lots of really great material, and it's totally free. So you can go over to bakerfamilyfitness.com/movemountains and make sure that you sign up today, okay? Now, here's what I want you to remember from today, my friends. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Your grief about past health struggles is not something to just push through or ignore. It's something to acknowledge, feel, and then release. I want you to really focus on the release part. We have to get to that place where we're just like not holding on to that past. And if you haven't listened to the episode I did called The Body Keeps the Score, there was a 2-part to it. I really did share a lot about some of the things and some of the areas my body was really holding on to past trauma. So I want you to just remember that that's there for you as well. You're not alone on this journey. This woman that I got to work with, she succeeded because she finally found peace with her journey, not because we planned out the perfect diet. Your past attempts, they're not failures. Your past doesn't determine your future. And where you are right now is exactly where God can meet you and help you move forward. Our next episode, we're going to be diving into the 3rd Beatitude, blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. But for now, all I need you to do, guys, is pick one thing from today's episode and act on it. Write down what you're grieving. Feel the feelings. We're going to separate your past from your future. Let us close in prayer. Father, thank you for meeting us in our grief and disappointment. Help us to be honest about what we've been carrying and give us courage to feel what we need to feel. Show us how to separate our past attempts from our future possibilities. Help us see setbacks as information, not condemnation. And give us wisdom to know what to release and strength to let it go. Lord, heal our hearts so our bodies can follow. And help us to build health from a place of hope instead of fear. In Jesus' name, amen. Now, my friends, keep building strength for generations. Thanks for tuning in to Strength for Generations. If this podcast encouraged you, it would be a blessing if you took a quick minute to leave a 5-star review. It helps more families hear this message and find hope for their health and faith journey. It lights me up to know this podcast is helping you. And if you feel led to share this episode, text it to a friend, post it to your stories, or send it to someone on your heart. God might use it to encourage someone who really needs it today. And don't forget to eat steaks, lift weights, love Jesus, and keep doing it His way.